Everyone. I would like to call to order the meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. Today is June the 4th, 2024. The time is 9:30 a.m. First, I would like to recognize that June 6th marks the 80th anniversary of D-Day. I would like to honor and thank the military members who sacrificed everything. Could we please have a moment of silence for those brave lives that were lost? All right, thank you so much. I would like to call on Pastor John Anatonsi from Faith Center Church for the invocation. Welcome and thank you for being here, and everyone please rise for the prayer.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, this is the day that you have made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. We thank you for your continued blessing and favor upon the people of Lee County. Father, we pray for these county commissioners today as they make critical decisions regarding the residents of this great county. You said, if any man lack wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all men liberally and upbraideth not, but let him ask in faith. So today, Father, we ask in faith that you would grant unto these men wisdom, that they would know the future implications of the decisions that they're about to make today on behalf of the residents of this great county. And that, Father, they would flow together in a unity and a spirit of unity that would continue to move forward the progress and the favor and the blessing of this county. And we thank you for it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, please be seated. Come here, Chair.
Get my furniture back here.
Okay, we do not have any ceremonial presentations this morning, so at this time we will take up the recap. Okay, there are no items to defer or no items for revision, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. Commissioner Hammond, do you have any items to pull?
I have none today, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Sandelli?
No.
Commissioner Ruane?
No, sir.
And I have none. We will move on to public comment on the consent agenda. All right, I do have a card on the consent agenda. Marcia Ellis.
Good morning, Commissioners. Marcia Ellis for the record. I would like to share some brief comments on consent item number 6, which is the right-of-way purchase on the Alico extension. 16, which is the compensation. 23, 29, and 30, which all relate to testing of utilities, the public supply of water, the landfills, both the construction demolition landfill and the landfills out at in Hendry County, as well as some testing at the waste-to-energy facility. So first of all, I would like to, after taking a look at the $4,200,000 settlement with Florida Rock, as someone who lives in that portion of the county, of course I follow all things happening with the Alico Road improvements and extensions, and so, you know, I am anticipating a meeting on this next phase so that the public, as promised, can get more information about this settlement. So I'm just saying that 3 minutes isn't really long enough for me to get into great details, and I very much am anticipating the opportunity to comment on this further as a person who lives in that part of the county. Number 16, which is the compensation packet, I reviewed that item a second time, looked looking for exactly how much money we're talking about. Again, NA is not really acceptable when we take a look at the consent items in terms of weighing out those financial implications. I'd like to see how those proposed salaries and benefits compare to other staff members. Are we talking senior as in the level of the county attorney? How much money are we talking about for those positions with strategic government and assistant county managers? Just more specificity and some context. And now we're into the testing. So the first part of the testing is about testing of the public water wells. I'm in agreement that certainly needs to continue and be as robust. The efforts of the county are acknowledged. And then when I was reviewing the testing at the waste to energy, I was looking for dioxin testing because we had an exceedance twice in post-Hurricane Ian, and there are real concerns about those testing of dioxin, which is quite expensive. I understand that there is tissue testing available, which would be the best way to look at the bioaccumulation in organisms. And I did not see it just in quick review of that list, nor did I see the PFAS testing, which also need to be included. When I reviewed that, I didn't see it called out. We absolutely need information about PFAS contamination at this waste to energy plant, not just for the folks that deserve the answers in that area, but also to inform future decision-making and liability that's associated with that. So I would like to get more specific information about dioxin testing and PFAS as it relates to the waste energy plant. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Does anyone else wish to speak on the items on the consent agenda at this time? Okay, seeing none, we will close public comment. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move approval of the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion to approve from Commissioner Hammond, a second from Commissioner Sandelli. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. Any objections? No objections. Consent agenda moves 4-0, unanimous. That concludes the consent agenda. We will move to the administrative agenda. Mr. County Manager, please introduce item number 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This item is to consider acquisition of Conservation 2020 nomination and crew. I'd like to ask Robert Clemens to present the item.
Good morning, Commissioners. Robert Clemens, County Lands. This item is a request for the board to approve staff to proceed with acquisition activities of a 15-acre tract of land for Conservation 2020. It's in the Crew area, kind of the southwest portion of the Crew area. The parcel scored 79 points. Staff recommends pursuing acquisition of this, as well as Class Act approved acquisition by unanimous vote. I'm open for any questions.
Okay. This time, does the board have any questions for staff?
I'll make a motion for approval. I'll second. Yeah.
Okay, I have a motion for approval from Commissioner Hammond and a second from Commissioner Sandelli. Okay, at this time I will call for public comment. Does anyone wish to speak on this item? Item number 1. Okay, seeing no comment, at this time I will close public comment. We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Hammond, a second from Commissioner Sandelli. Do we have any further discussion?
Just one
Yes,
thing to point
Commissioner
out,
Hammond.
just on behalf of all of us, Mr. Chairman, thank you. You know, I want to thank the staff for their diligent efforts on continuing to buy these infill parcels in the Corkscrew Regional Ecosystem Watershed. So this is a 60,000 acre watershed. I know, you know, a lot of us feel the development. We feel people are moving into our county. It's getting bigger, you know, all the time. But I think it should not go without saying that here we've got 60,000 acres preserved for water supply, for green space, and so it's protected from development in the future. And we've continued that effort to keep that going and to finish that project. So I want to thank you very much for that, and happy to support today's motion.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment on it as well. I think it goes unnoticed so much. I think sometimes it would be important for our constituents to actually look around and realize over the years how much land the 2020 program has purchased to continue to help the environment and the animals. So I think it's a great program, and it's done some great things, and this is just another example of that. So Commissioner Sandell.
Just one final comment. As the staff provides information to us and guidance, I'd also like to thank the Classic team for the work that they do.
Yeah.
They tee this thing up and give us the information, so thank you to them.
Okay, any other comment? No? All right, at this time, we had a motion from Commissioner Hammond, a second from Commissioner Sandelli. Any objections? Seeing no objections, item moves unanimously 4-0. Mr. Harner, please introduce item number 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This item is to authorize task order for implementation of CDBG-DR individual housing programs. I'd like to ask Ms. Jeannie Sutton to present the item.
Good morning, Commissioners. This task order authorizes work from July 1st through December 31st for Horn. They are our implementation vendor for our individual housing programs funded with CDBG-DR. The task order has a not-to-exceed amount of $58.3 million. Approximately $47.6 million of that amount is for reimbursements for repairs made to income-eligible households, residents, and also for the purchase of homes, providing assistance for home purchase assistance to income-eligible households as well. This item also approves a modification to the current task order, which is task order 3. That modification increases the current not-to-exceed amount by $1.3 million. That provides for, again, reimbursements for home purchase assistance, as well as funding to support necessary inspections on houses to make sure that we can get elevation certs or lead-based paint certificates when the program calls for it. We will also be coming back to you in the next meeting with an additional amendment for task order 3 to allow for additional funds to support home purchase assistance. That program has been widely successful so far, and we anticipate about 21 closings to occur this month, so 21 new homeowners in the county. I'm available for any questions.
At this time, does staff have any questions?
Real quick,
Mr. Hammond?
Jeannie, does the home purchase assistance, are we helping people like move out of flood zones and into drier spots where they won't have to pay for like flood insurance and won't have to worry about storm surge risk and things like that?
That is correct. So any of these homes that are being purchased with the $75,000 of assistance have to be outside of a special flood hazard area. So they have to be in an area that is in that X zone and without flood insurance requirements.
Thanks so much for that.
Yeah.
You know, Mr. Chairman, I think this is a great, great example of so many people had great ideas for us after Hurricane Ian hit and really devastated the area with severe flooding. You know, they said, well, why don't you help people elevate their homes? And so this, part of this money will help people do that. Well, why don't you help people move out of the special flood hazard area? Part of this money is going to do that as well. And so just really pleased with how this is coming together and wanted to let people know, hey, some of those good ideas that you gave us after the storm, we listened and we're working on them to try and help people out.
Yep. Thank you, Commissioner Hammond. That's a great point. And again, I think that's another program that we're doing that people maybe don't realize, and these are great opportunities to make sure that people notice it, right? Yeah,
The only other comment I'd like to make is that housing in general is a challenge across the boards. So in order to implement this within that context is to be applauded and stuff like this. It's not an easy task. But thank you for that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Wayne.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to echo your comments. Obviously, what we did the moment the storm hit, you know, we started to recover, and during that, we listened to the public. We had them engaged. We had them give their opinions. They were heard, and they were now implemented. So it's just exactly how we're supposed to work. We listen to our community. We embrace their input, and then we actually make policy decisions that make the betterment of our community. So I applaud you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I will call for public comment. I do have a card. Marcia Ellis.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners. Marcia Ellis for the record. This is an enormous amount of money that we're asking Horn to manage. It looks like, you know, 58, nearly about $58 million on behalf of the county. So I was able to sort of see how that was broken down a bit at the end. And it's clear that, you know, this is an evolving rollout, right? We're learning that some programs that we'd had great hope for, like, let's say, the buyout program, right, that we had really anticipated and set aside millions of dollars to purchase repetitive flood properties, that those programs have not had people buy into them, or maybe the outreach wasn't aggressive enough for whatever reason. And so I understand that some of the monies are being shifted around and some of the tasks are being reassigned. Same thing with the multi-residential repairs, that there was some 8 million, I think, shifted to another part of recovery funds. And so I understand that it's important to be fluid and to be able to respond to these changes. But I continue to have concerns for transparency in terms of, you know, the public being able to monitor how these funds are being spent, and then also that the folks, the very low income, the most vulnerable in the community, that they are continuing to be served and have their unmet needs fulfilled, which was the direction of HUD. So I have concern about that. And those concerns continue to be for periods of affordability, that we have durable reductions in housing burden in this community, that it be as long as possible, and that recapture not be allowed, so that these funds will allow for housing to continue for as long as possible in the community. So I'm just using this opportunity to sort of, you know, hit on these ideas and point out, I understand that this is a flexible and evolving situation, but to make sure that that transparency through the canopy system, I would hope that there would be some education for those of us who are interested in knowing about that we are able to put our eyes on that information and provide that role that is important in the community. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Ellis. Does anyone else wish to speak on this item? Please come on up. Please state your name. You got 3 minutes, and you don't have to touch the mic. It's all set, okay? Please state your name before you start.
My name is Patricia Zimmerman, and I'm here representing the Lee Interfaith for Empowerment Group. This is an organization within Lee County that is pressuring and hoping that our leaders would take seriously the need for affordable housing in our county. And one of the things that this the CDBG-DR money is meant to do is to build new affordable housing. And I believe that today or sometime in the near future, there was going to be a committee formed from each area of our county that will be responsible for reviewing the proposals that are being put forward to build affordable housing using this money. And it was on the agenda, I thought, when I looked online, but I don't see it in the report today, that these appointments are going to be made. This is a really important committee appointment that needs to be made so we can move forward and start the process of building affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak on item number 2? Okay, seeing none, I will close public comment. We'll come back to the board. Any further discussion or questions?
You know, just to follow up on that last comment, I think all of us have made our appointments. It was done during the commissioner appointment part of the agenda. At the end, you'll see here. We'll probably even make some today, I think. Maybe not to that specific committee, but that's where we always make our committee appointments, is right at the end of the agenda where it says commissioner items, committee appointments. And I know I've made my appointment. I think everybody has.
I've got one today.
Okay. Yeah, but that's all, the only follow-up. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Hammond. All right. At this time, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion for approval from Commissioner Rain, a second from Commissioner Hammond. Any objections? Seeing no objections, item passed unanimously 4-0. All right. Mr. Hunter, please introduce item number 3.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This item is to award a contract for Green Meadows Water Treatment Plant deep well injection. I'd like to ask Pam Keys to present the item.
Good morning, Commissioners. Pam Keys. This item is to approve for the construction of a deep injection well. This is the second deep injection well for our Green Meadows Water Treatment Plant. This will meet requirements from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, who gives us our permitting for operation of the plant. The second deep injection well will provide redundancy as well as improve efficiency of the operations. I do want to state that we will be coming back for the above ground improvements needed for that in the future. But this is just for the drilling and construction of the underground infrastructure.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for staff at this time? Okay. Okay, seeing none, I will call for public comment. I do have a card. Marcia Ellis.
Good morning, Marcia
morning.
Ellis for the record. So I see that we have about 18 million just for the drilling to get a redundant deep injection well at our public water supply off of Green Meadows. So I just want to point out that the technologies for reverse osmosis, the ion exchange, regeneration, drawing from the deeper aquifers, if we spoil or as we spoil the superficial and intermediate aquifers, cost us more money in terms of energy to operate those technologies, and 20% at the absolute best, 30% more likely of waste water. So that means for every 3 gallons of water that you send out to the people, that one of those 3 gallons will be wasted, right? And it will need to be deep injected. So I think that it's important. There are technologies coming online, like the Battelle's Annihilator, which can eliminate things like PFAS, which are proving troubling, and forcing the county to look more robustly at reverse osmosis, because we could seriously be affecting the overall water budget in our community long term. And I think that we have to very carefully stay attuned to evolving technology, evolving requirements for drinking water, and continue to be as proactive as we can be. I know that this county has led the way with the density reduction groundwater resource area. Not every community did. We are in a better position to face the future in an optimistic way, and we have options that not many Florida communities do, that are 100% reliant on the Floridan aquifer. Okay, they have no choice. We have a choice to maintain our superficial and intermediate aquifers, which will not be as salty because the salts are proving problematic, and get the technologies in that aren't going to spoil our resource and then lead to greater shortages over time. So I understand that this is something that we have to do as a community to have that redundancy, but in terms of a long-term strategy, deep injection could prove problematic, and I think it's important to weigh the pros and the cons. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ellis. Anyone else wish to speak on item number 3? Okay, seeing none, I will close public comment. Any other questions or comments from the board at this time? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion?
I'd gladly make the motion. So.
Second.
Motion to approve from Commissioner Wayne, a second from Commissioner Sandelli. Any objections? Seeing no objections, item passes 4-0, unanimous. That concludes the administrative agenda. So we will move on to public hearing at this time. There will be one public hearing item on the agenda. Mr. County Attorney, please introduce public item number 1.
Good morning, Commissioners. David Halverson, County Attorney's Office. I have your first public hearing this morning. This item has been duly advertised, and I've given the affidavit of publication to the clerk. This item is a request to adopt an ordinance amending Lee County Ordinance 1701, which is a Lee County towing and immobilization ordinance. The amended ordinance reflects an update to the rate schedule and the manner in which rates are calculated. The amended ordinance also incorporates a fuel surcharge provision. If there's any questions, staff's available.
Any questions for staff? Any comments?
You know, the only thing I'd ask, if I may, Mr. Chair, thanks so much, is just, could you, just for the folks at home who are watching, what is non-consensual towing, practically speaking?
Well, the definition of non-consensual tow is not being changed in this, so the ordinance lays out what that is.
I'll help you out. I was looking for something a little more simple, like non-consensual towing is like if somebody was arrested for a DUI and their car can't be picked up by a relative.
Exactly.
That car needs to be then taken to impound. That's the towing we're talking about. Or maybe if they were illegally parked and they need to be towed.
Understood.
Like
so non-consensual towing in the ordinance, it applies to law enforcement directed tows as well as towing from private property.
Perfect. Okay, thanks so much. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yep. Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments? Questions? Okay, I will move on to public comment. At this time, I have a card. Tom Tedford.
Morning, Commissioners. Just want to extend, my name's Tom Tedford. I represent Guardian Fleet Services and Alligator Towing, which is located on Martin Luther King Boulevard here in Fort Myers. We do this service for the city of Fort Myers Police Department exclusively and Lee County Sheriff's Office. I just want to recognize the commission for taking the time to understand the enormous burden that's been put on our industry over the last decade in cost increases, both in equipment and operating costs, insurance, and things like this. Speaking for the industry, this will be a huge help to the industry to be able to continue to support these law enforcement agencies going forward and be able to continue our business forthright. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak on item number 1? Okay, seeing none, I will close public comment. Okay, I will come back to the board. Does anyone want to make a motion?
Chair, I'll gladly move the item.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Rain makes a motion. Second from Commissioner Hammond. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none. Any objections? No objections. Item moves 4-0. At that time, this concludes our public hearings for today. So we'll move on to walk-ons and carryovers. There are no walk-ons and no carryovers. So we can move on to commissioner items. Okay, moving on to commissioner items. Commissioner Hammond, do you have any items?
No items today, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Sandelli?
No, sir.
I have none. Commissioner Wayne?
I have a few, yes.
Sir.
The first one is obviously on the agenda on the recap regarding the traffic on Palmetto Road, just north of Daniels Parkway at the following intersections, Palmetto Road and Job Road, as well as Palmetto Road and Kings Crossing. We basically installed traffic cones there to obviously try to deal with some of the traffic issues. Since the installation of traffic cones, a new apartment complex was built on Palmetto Road, as well as Job Road, and it's caused increased traffic due to the extent entry and exit into the apartment complex located on Palmetto Road. Also, St. John's 23 Catholic Church, the church is large, brings in hundreds of people. The sheriff reached out to me and said the traffic on Palmetto is often backed up for miles due to the recently to the installation of the cones, now allowing anyone to turn east or west due to the only lane in there. The traffic congestion severely increases during Sunday church hours. Southbound traffic can be backed up for miles. On the issue at hand is the emergency vehicles are unable to maneuver in this area during emergency situation. One lane for each direction with no shoulder causes emergency vehicles to have to go head on to traffic where nowhere to go, and the event vehicles need to go there. The traffic cones basically block the vehicles, don't allow them to move either way on the emergency side. There are also traffic cones installed just south of Daniels and Philstick Boulevard. This causes, again, issues with vehicles entering and exiting Publix right there. Basically, what I'm asking is that we consider taking the cones down. I received a call directly from the sheriff's office. He asked, as a liaison, he asked that I would address this. I talked with the county manager. He indicated that I had to bring it up here as a county commission item. He didn't have the jurisdiction to do that. I'd like to move on the item that we remove the cones. That would be my motion.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Wayne, a second from Commissioner Hammond. At this time, do we have any public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, I will close public comment. And any further discussion on the item? Commissioner Sandell?
I think when we were briefed on this, one of the concerns was traffic safety. And we had, I think, if I recall correctly, we had some accidents in that area. So I'm not opposed to what's on the table here. I just hope that we're not regressing in some way. So if we can monitor those numbers going forward, we may have to revisit it again, or it goes forward. That's my only comment.
I agree with Commissioner Sandelli's comments. I mean, we should obviously track this to make sure there's not an issue that's getting compounded as a result of this, but it's difficult when the sheriff of this county calls and obviously gives his recommendation not to go with it. That's why I brought it up.
Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion? Okay, I see none. We have a motion from Commissioner Wayne, a second from Commissioner Hammond. Are there any objections? Seeing none, item moves 4-0. Okay. Commissioner Wayne?
Yes, second item is Boca Grande parking. Back in April of '22, the board voted unanimously to authorize me to move forward with evaluating the parking situation in Lee County, Gasparilla Island, as well as county staff to work with to prepare an ordinance for approval. You know, just to reflect why I brought this up, the community plan in Boca Grande calls for the preservation and conservation of unique characters and scale of the community, its historic district, the tradition, as well as conservation and preservation of natural environment, including recreation, open spaces, residents' right to continue quiet enjoyment of these high priorities community, the mitigation of stresses to the environment and the infrastructure because of off-island growth must be the precedent in planning for Boca's future. That's basically in their community plan, which is part of the Land Development Code. So with that, you know, in addition, you know, what I did as direction from this board is inside Gasparilla, which is my district, which includes Sanibel Island, Captiva, North Captiva, Useper, Pine Island, as well as Boca Grande. When I was mayor of Sanibel, we implemented a structured parking plan because of the overcrowdedness. I'm deeply aware of the challenges and development that can cause for a barrier island and the role of effective parking regulations can play in solving that. I know this is a unique characteristic within this island and must be honored whenever we implement any new program. As part of the work on the issues, I've met with hundreds of visitors. I've done at least 24 visits myself to Boca in different situations. What perceived initially was it's just a temporary situation. In May, we're up over 18% of traffic going on. The worst 2 weekends they had were Memorial Day and the weekend before. So it's an ongoing problem that continues to exist. And again, I've tried to get a comprehensive reach. I know that, you know, there was a lot of anxiety we received some emails from the churches. When I talked with the churches, as many people in the businesses indicated, I wasn't looking to disrupt their services. We all do that. But, you know, in meeting with the sheriff, in meeting with county staff, in meeting with residents, we don't park any other place in Lee County on a median. We don't. We don't do it on McGregor. We don't any place of this nature. And this has been an issue that was done some 10 years ago. We beautified it, but it's really gotten out of control. So today, you know, I'd like the board to authorize me to continue to work on this ordinance, bring it back for this approval, and some of the elements that's been, you know, we were working on, and I worked with the parking panel that was appointed by Commissioner Manning, but not necessarily one that would embrace public comment. I actually attended meetings where some of the public members were not allowed to participate at all. And what I tried to do is come up with a global effect in this regard. And you know, my considerations with this would be to implement a tiered parking program for residents, business, and visitors, so we understand what that is. Establish 2-hour parking within the commercial district. Limit the use of Gilchrist Avenue for the churches. Obviously, for Sunday, we'd have some prohibition against or any special events or any permits that they might need. Again, trying to let them do what they're supposed to do. You know, the sad thing is, having went there on a few different Sundays, and there's a parking lot, our parking lot that holds 91 cars. I couldn't tell you the number of times the meeting was full and the parking lot was empty. I know it's a block and a half, and one of the pastors indicated to me that they'd like us to consider keeping it beyond 1 o'clock because some of the members, although they need to park on the median and they're going to have walkers, would like to go to lunch. And I just said, how do they go to lunch if they're going to park on the median because they can't walk to a restaurant? There's no restaurant within walking distance. So these elements are really required of doing the necessary things. I wanted to work with staff. And again, this has been an issue. You know, in the 17 years I've governed, I've only governed on a barrier island, or I've only governed in beach communities. So that's really what my, I guess, involvement has been. So I've dealt with this before. The plan we implemented in Sanibel was one that was obviously, unique and certainly it's done in Palm Beach, it's done in Gainesville, it's done in a lot of different areas. And all I'm trying to do is balance the community plan and balance the intensity on that. Because like Sanibel, there's only one road in, one road out. And whether you want to look at data from across the bridge, it just seems like the pressures continue. And there's only X number of parking spots. The other issue that really has been compounded is that our fines are $32. So I can block your driveway, and the sheriff has witnessed endlessly. And we've been more of an education first. The education hasn't worked. So obviously, new signs, new fines, they need to be increased to prohibit people from parking. Because, I've had constituents of mine call me up. I've had people that you'll hear from today where they have not had the ability to go to a doctor's appointment. I have, one of my constituents that obviously she's here today, she's in a wheelchair. Her driveway's been blocked numerous times. Her home's actually been, went in and actually stole things from her home. So people just are walking into the properties. There's public urination. We need to have some law and order, some type of, consent. And the education process is one that's not working. This has been something that's been ongoing for about 9 years. So you all gave me the authority to work with staff. I want to kind of indicate some of the tiers that we're talking about and like to be able to bring an ordinance back to this committee. But I think there's some members of the public that would like to voice their concerns. And I know that both sides have certainly done that. I've assured the churches that I'm not looking to interfere with their Sunday Mass at all. I'm not. I go to church every Sunday. I understand how important that is. But I think if we had, parking from 8 to 1 and thereafter, the medium wasn't intended to have free parking 7 days a week. And it's not only overburdened, but then you even have people blocking other people in because they want to get there. The sad thing is that people pay the $6 and they believe they're entitled. And when there's no room left, because of the overwhelming traffic that comes in, there's no place to go. If any of you have been there, I've sent photos, gotten letters, and I'm trying to have a balance. My intention from the get-go was to try to work with the community, the residents that are there. And I appreciate the fact that the churches have, weighed in on this, and I appreciate their comments. The interesting thing is the residents, people that pay our taxes, are the ones that obviously the most impacted. When you live in Charlotte County, you go to church, you can come to the island and leave. You don't have to deal with the 7 days a week of the congestion, of the traffic, and the issues that are going forward. So I certainly, Mr. Chair, if you wouldn't mind, I know there's some people that would like to make some comments, and then I'll bring it back here for a motion and see what we'd like to do.
Okay. Okay, at this time, I think we can go to public comment. I do have some cards here, and we will start off with Dennis Vickers. If I pronounce your name wrong, please correct me when you come up. And you got 3 minutes, and you don't have to touch the mic. It's all set. And when the light turns orange, you got 1 minute left. So, welcome, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Dennis Vickers. I'm a mortgage climatologist, and I come to speak about global warming and red tide and coral reefs. And I have vision to make global warming go away by going down to Antarctica, breaking off some steam factories. And when you break off the iceberg, it's a lot like a spinning top. And when you spin that top down,
I'm sorry, I need to pause for a second. I need to speak. It's really not subject to what we're discussing at this point.
I know.
So just let me ask Mr.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
With due respect to the speaker, I believe he's here premature. I believe he is here to address the board on matters not on the agenda, as opposed to the subject that's on the floor currently, which is Commissioner Ruane's discussion.
So we can bring him back up at the end.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. If it's okay, we're going to stay on base. I'll have you come back up at the end, okay?
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right. I'm not sure that, some people check and some don't. So if you're here for if you're here for this
Boca Grande parking.
Boca Grande parking, if I call you up, please come on up, okay? And then I will ask if no one has a card to come on up, all right? Debbie McDonald?
Oh, no, she's not Boca Grande parking.
And you're not Boca Grande parking?
No, you're not Boca Grande parking.
If you're here to discuss Boca Grande parking, if not, I'll call you back up, okay? Because some of the cards aren't marked properly, or at all right? Why don't we do this? Why don't we just open it up for discussion? So we're going to open up for public comment to this, please state your name when you come up. And again, 3 minutes, don't touch the mic if you can, and if you would, please. And you have 1 minute when the light turns orange. All right, here we go. Please state your name, sir.
My name is Louis Sarkis, and I'm a resident of Boca Grande. I live at 890 East Railroad Avenue in the heart of town, about 3 blocks north of the Gasparilla Inn. First, thank you to each of you for your public service as our commissioners and for listening to us. Specific thanks to you, Commissioner Ruane, for taking time on multiple occasions to come to Boca Grande, listen to our residents, and hear our concerns. Your experience as a coastal community leader who's dealt with problems like ours is invaluable, so thank you. The parking situation in Boca Grande has become untenable and unsustainable. A huge explosion of residential development in nearby Charlotte and Sarasota counties has resulted in a massive increase in day visitors to Boca Grande. Our small, environmentally sensitive island cannot handle huge crowds. Visitors are clogging our residential neighborhoods. Over the past 3 years, I've written to each of you, urging attention and action to deal with the parking problem in our neighborhoods. During the past 3 years, the problem has gotten materially worse. If this goes addressed much longer, it will become an issue of public safety. This is an island-wide problem, so I ask that you consider an island-wide solution. Taking a piecemeal approach and restricting parking only in some streets or just the beachfront streets will push the problem elsewhere and make it even worse in our residential neighborhoods. Again, this is an island-wide problem. We need an island-wide solution. Our community has been overrun with day visitors at a quickening pace. Sadly, some don't respect our fragile environment. Speaking personally, visitors have begun parking on our property, and unfortunately, my having to pick up trash in our street and in our yard is a weekly event. Some visitors are bold enough to ask my wife or me to use our bathrooms or our outdoor shower. In short, we feel inundated and we feel under siege. Our residents should not bear the responsibility of providing parking and facilities for day visitors. This is what public facilities and state parks are for. They are designed for that purpose. So I ask you to please implement a parking program that will protect our neighborhoods and preserve our historic community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak at this time? Again, please state your name when you come up, if you would, please, for the record.
Yes, my name is Lynn Siebert. I'm a 30-year full-time resident in the Lee County portion of Boca Grande. I live on Damafino Street. My background is in planning and real estate development. I have served our community in various capacities for most of my 30 years on the island. First as a director and a vice president of the GICIA, then 6 years working with the Boca Grande Community Planning Panel, and I served there as a chairman, a vice chair, and a treasurer. So I'm very familiar with our community plan, and the community was very much involved in formulating it. I've also been on this Parking Advisory Committee since its inception in 2015. The state of Florida recognized the environmental sensitivity of our island by establishing it as a state conservation district through the Gasparilla Island Conservation District Act of 1980. And that's why it's one of the jewels of Lee County. Our community plan was adopted into the Lee Plan in 2005. The highest priority in our plan is to protect and preserve Boca Grande's environment, the residential nature and quality of life of its residents, and the scale and character of our historic district. I want to stress the urgent need for a structured permit parking plan for Boca Grande, and I want to thank the Commissioner Ruane for his knowledge and guidance. His experience in Sanibel has been a tremendous help to us. We are seeing the increasing degradation of our historic district and its residential Beach Street neighborhoods, which on many days are just completely overrun. We simply can't have the physical capacity in the historic district to accommodate the large crowds from Sarasota and Charlotte counties who are coming here now, and there is no sustainable way to deal with them in the future. South of the village, there are 4 large state park beaches which are beautiful, very wide, and have parking and restroom facilities. That is where the visiting beachgoers should be directed. Now is particularly urgent to deal with this problem because of the unprecedented rapid development occurring not only in Cape Hayes, which has over 87,000 platted lots, but also in South Sarasota County and Northport, which has been named the fastest growing area in the nation. Numerous subdivisions and thousands of residential units are well underway along Winchester Boulevard and River Road out to I-75. Gasparilla Island is a fragile, environmentally sensitive barrier island. It's only about 7 miles long and a half-mile wide at its widest. The only access on or off is one 2-lane road that can't be expanded. Its natural beauty and historic district are valued assets for Lee County, and it's only common sense to continue to preserve this.
Okay, ma'am, your time's up.
All right,
So
thank you.
we're going to try to adhere to the 3 minutes, so anyone else would like to make public comment at this point? Please, come on up. We're going to have the gentleman come up and help you with the mic here, okay?
Okay, I might be able to make the turn.
Don't worry about it. We got you. Yep, I think you're probably okay right
Oh,
there.
yeah, that's much
Yep.
better. Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Julie Sullivan, and I live in Boca Grande on the beach, on a beach street in town. I am a second-generation Boca Grander. My parents were here, and my father was vice chair of the panel that developed the community plan with Lynn. And I would like to thank Lynn and the panel for all their work years ago in foreseeing, you know, what was coming down the pike, and it's here. And I'd like to thank you for for addressing this issue, and especially Commissioner Ruane for your efforts over the last few years. I would like to share what it's like to live on the beach, on a beach street in town. My personal experience is shared by people up and down the island, but one of the things you have to realize about the in-town parking is that beaches is that we have our streets that have full parking on nice days. The Gilchrist median gets full, and people can park in town unlimited. So in town, we have all of those beachgoers funneling in to our beach streets, which are our beach is probably as long as from where I'm sitting and the wall behind you. It's jam-packed, and it creates an atmosphere and an environment that is chaotic. I'm the person that Kevin referred to who has had people walk into my house in the middle of the day. You know, someone in my living room curious. And I could lock my doors, but then I wouldn't be able to get out because I can't unlock a door. And I don't think that's the solution. We've experienced theft, and we have experienced other trespass, like, you know, people just using our yard, our beach chairs, and it just, there's a feeling that this is all just part of a park and that we're part of the park too. We really need your help, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Great, thank you. Okay, at this time, would anyone else like to speak on this item? He's going to come up and take care of the mic for you. He's got it. He's coming right behind you. Please state your name for the record, please.
Hi, I'm Sue Sliger. I have a property on First Street in Boca Grande. I also own commercial property on East Railroad Avenue, downtown. We purchased our first home in 1985, moved to the island on 99 full-time, and I started my business in 2000. Being a retailer on the island, I'm very aware of how important visitors are. However, in the past 3 years, what I have seen has not been favorable to the downtown economy. I have experienced multiple times seeing bikers in multiple SUVs or beachgoers with their loaded wagons coming to the island just before the shops open. So they capture all the prime parking spaces in the shade areas on both sides of the cart path. They're parked there for almost the entire day, and very rarely do any of those people step into any of the shops. I can't emphasize enough how important what Lynn said about the growth off island is to our island. We desperately need some kind of structured parking sooner rather than later. Other communities like Sanibel, Seaside, they have structured parking. Why wouldn't our little fragile environment be afforded the same protection as them? Thank you very much for your time and consideration, commissioners, and especially you, Commissioner Ruane, for all the multiple trips you've made to really understand our issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on this item at this time? Please come on up, state your name.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Ann Fletcher. My husband, Bob, and I live on Boca Grande on Gilchrist Avenue. We have witnessed firsthand the negative changes to the Gilchrist median. Having lived in Boca Grande for over 30 years, Bob often mentions he remembers when Gilchrist was such a quiet neighborhood. You could hear the women changing their minds. This is no longer the case, mostly due to off-island visitors who are not Lee County taxpayers and have no respect to where and when they park. Recently, some have claimed that parking has always been allowed on the median. This is simply historically inaccurate. History and public records show Gilchrist, with its Olmsted-type parkway, is one of the historic venues in Southwest Florida. A short time ago, it was among the most beautiful. The parkway was never designed for parking, and for most of the history, parking was not an issue because of tastefully designed landscaping. We are told it is the only median in the county that allows for parking. Can you imagine McGregor Boulevard as a parking lot? I apologize for bothering you with our local problem. Over the years, we have diligently worked to solve our dilemma, including having dozens of meetings with various stakeholders, 2 all-island public meetings regarding Gilchrist, 2 island-wide surveys, both resulted and supported our position to save Gilchrist Avenue. It is now obvious we need legislative action. We do not need another meeting, as some have suggested. Although we residents would prefer no parking on Gilchrist as the original planners envisioned, we do support the reasonable compromise being presented, allowing Sunday worshipers to park on the median. Limited structured parking is critical to saving our island from the tsunami of vehicles arriving daily. It is now up to you to save Boca Grande, a very valuable asset of Lee County. We are grateful to all of you for your time and consideration, especially Commissioner Ruane, who has made numerous trips to our island and listened to various ideas on the issue. A unanimous vote on this proposal would be a perfect birthday present for my 92-year-old husband who wishes to live in our home peacefully. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, anyone else? Come on up. Please state your name.
I'm Hugh Sullivan. You already heard from my wife, so I'm not going to go through what we've been living with, and I'll try not to use the full 3 minutes. I just want to say a couple of things. Most importantly, there are a number of other people who wanted to come today and speak, but we did want to respect your time to some degree. But there are stories that are worth hearing at some point, and maybe you'll get letters, about people who live on beach streets where once the parking spaces are filled, they still experience people racing in and out in, frankly, a rather dangerous way because they're looking for a parking space. And they go up and down each of these little streets with difficult turnarounds because of all the parked cars. There will be safety issues coming out of this. There is no doubt. Okay? When beach parkers fill the median, there will be safety issues because you have to pull out in golf carts and cars blind into oncoming traffic that doesn't have a stop sign because you can't see because of all the parked cars. This is not safe. So that's one point. Second point I want to make just very quickly is we are a residential community. The horror stories that you could hear today if we line people up go well beyond what have been discussed. They include people relieving themselves publicly in our yards, people using people's swimming pools, stealing from their property, etc. Yes, we are a conservation district. Yes, we have a community plan that says that Lee County will protect us from this, but no neighborhood in Lee County should have to go through this. It doesn't matter whether you're a beach community. Can you imagine any other neighborhood that would put up, regardless of what level of their taxes are or whatever, nobody should have to live with masses of people coming into their street week after week, invading their homes, blocking their driveways, and partying. So I really ask that you keep that in mind. You remember that we need a whole island solution so that we don't push the problem from one to the other. And please, accommodate the churches. They need to park on the median, regardless of how they got the ability to do that. They need to park on the median in a safe way for their services and their special events. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else wish to speak? Okay, seeing none, I will close public comment. Commissioner Lorraine.
Thanks. Just a couple of noteworthy facts. You all have received 2 different memos from Brent Cross. He represents the Gasparilla Inn, Sarah and Will Ferris, and the Ferris children. And what I've outlined from tiered residential structured parking, he's asked for. Time parking within the commercial district, he's asked for. Limited parking on Gilchrist Avenue, he's asked for. Additional fines and or penalties for people that violate the laws. Everything that I've outlined, from structured parking to 2-hour limits in commercial district to limited parking on Gilchrist to prohibiting parking on East Railroad and developing signage and fines are exactly what needs to be considered. And honestly, I've never had an entity like the Gasparilla Inn weigh in. I've had a couple of conversations with Mr. Cross. He's now the president of the, and this is what the family, the Ferris family, would like, and that's basically what they put. We've received 2 different memos, one in April, one in May, and you were all copied on it. All I'm asking you for is the opportunity to outline, as I've done this, and move forward with this with staff. We still have the right to vet it when it comes back and talk about it, but it's something that I've worked on for a long time. I've worked in communities where this has been a problem when you have one road in, one road out. There's just limited capacity. If we're going to be adhering to the community plan, it's just something we need to move forward with. So I'm going to make a motion that I work with staff to implement a structured parking with tiered parking for residents, business, and visitors, so we have a balance, to establish a limit in the commercial district so people want to shop, they can, but they don't park there all day, to use Gilchrist Avenue for churches and some special events, to limit parking on East Railroad, because again, when we talk about balances, we want to make sure we balance this, and then have additional signage and increased fines with that. That'll be my motion.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman, and that is to bring it back for final approval at a future meeting.
Bring it back in an ordinance style. I've worked with staff, and we're certainly trying to deal with it.
Second that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I'll make a comment too before we call for a vote, is I have visited that island many, many times in my 57 years here in Lee County. And I visited recently, and there's no question that it's an issue. There's no question that it should be addressed. And thank you, Commissioner, for addressing it. I think it's something that just makes a lot of sense for the people that live in our community. So that being said, Commissioner Sandelli.
Two things. One is, there's different comments. We're talking about a community here. Our responsibility is to all of Lee County. So I hope that public safety is always number one, and consideration for people's private property is always kept top of mind. So it's not unique here, it's for everybody, and I just want to put that out there. My comments are, one, obviously you've heard some of these stories and they're disheartening. So I hope that whatever measure we take are, one, can be implemented quickly, you know, with signage and fines and so on and so forth, so people don't have to put up with some of the things they've been put up with probably too long. And I think the outline for the long-term things, I hope that we can bring that to fruition, but I think the elements are there for that, so.
Chairman?
Yes.
One thought I had too. Thank you very much. You know, I think the last gentleman who spoke really kind of encapsulated how I felt about the issue too. I wouldn't like this if this was going on in my neighborhood. I'd be fighting against it. I appreciate what the residents have come and told us about today. I've been out to Boca Grande myself. I've seen the issues myself. And so I think you're on the right path, Commissioner. I throw this out there only as an idea. Take it or leave it for what it's worth. But I think a lot of the solutions that you talk about are very common sense, and they're almost, you know, visibly apparent as you look at the situation. However, I would also throw this out there. There are probably planners out there who design parking plans for massive developments that we approve at zonings on Wednesdays and things like that. I would be supportive of, if you wanted to bring in a professional, an expert to help with designing this parking plan, somebody who could help lay out the logic for why why the system's going to work the way it works, and what they're, really just take a kind of a non-biased, just look at the thing and, hey, I'm an expert in parking planning and this is what I think you could do. I would throw that out there as an idea. I would support it if you wanted to go that route to help hire one, so that it's not all on just the staff and the commissioners to create the solution, which will be controversial regardless, but either way, supportive of the motion today.
I appreciate that. I did, reflect on the years it took us in Sanibel to do this, and quite frankly, I'm really bringing that without having additional expense. What's unique about this, you have a group of people that pay, an obscene amount of taxes. When you look at the taxes they're burdened with. So I'm trying to be cognizant as a good public steward to try to be, really protective of our resources. Having dealt with this before, it's pretty common sense. I've worked with staff. We've kind of laid everything out. I think if we run into any issues, what's good about an ordinance is they're breathing documents. You have the ability to modify them, whatever. But as Commissioner Sandelli indicated, there needs to be relief. This is 9 years in the making. And I'm just trying to obviously put something in. It doesn't have to be, obviously in concrete. We could elaborate and adjust it like everything else. The motion before was the same thing. Let's look to see what happens and see how we do it. But I think to the need and the structure, having only governed in shore communities, having governed only on coastal islands, I'm just going to bring the experience and the implementation, because I've looked at this, and you may all laugh, but this is just part of the research I've done relative to this when you look at the different plans. So trying to balance it all and trying to recognize that all people, I'm trying to obviously have them get together. And you're right, Commissioner Hammond, you're never going to have complete consensus, but I believe the majority of the people will do so. And for an entity and a group like the first is that have weighed in very strongly, and it almost mirrors what I've talked about. And again, it's the entire family. And the adult children have now weighed in on this because they're now residents of Boca Grande. It's where they're coming in as they're going through their transition plan. So they're the ones that have done this. So again, I've never had them been as vocal on a particular issue. I had multiple conversations with Mr. Cross. So I will use your comments, and I appreciate it. I'd like to try to take the first crack at the apple and see what we do. If we run into any confrontations, whatever, I gladly will explore your consideration, Commissioner Hanna. But thank you very much. Yeah. And I appreciate the board's support today.
Yeah. Okay. Any further discussion? Nope. Okay. So we have a motion to work with the board to bring back. I'll
work with the board and I'll bring it back, and obviously we'll talk about it. Yep.
Okay. We have a second from Commissioner Hammond. Any objections? No objections. Motion moves 4-0, unanimous, and happy 92nd birthday for a 4-0 vote for your husband. I thank you, Commissioner.
Can I ask for one more indulgence? I apologize.
Yes, sir, Commissioner.
So, obviously, it was brought to my attention that the applications for the CBDGR were closed. I was approached by Captiva to consideration of putting in the project to connect to the Sanibel sewer so we can get off of septic. They thought that this might be an eligible plan, but I missed the opportunity for the application, and NOFA obviously closed. So I need to bring it back to the board or the county manager to see if there'd be consideration that I could put these items on the list. They still have to go through the vetting and everything else, but the list, to my mistake, was obviously closed, and I don't have an opportunity. There's 2 items associated with the Captiva Sanibel collection system and connecting to it. I'd like consideration, if you would all consider that I have the opportunity to submit it, and obviously it'll go through the rankings like all other projects.
Okay, I'd like to recognize Mr. Harner. Please, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to ask Ms. Jeannie Sutton to respond to that.
Good morning. So Commissioner Rain is correct. The applications for critical infrastructure and public facilities did close. If it is the board's direction, those could be reopened again, but that would take your direction.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff at this point? Do we need to open this to public comment?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, thank you.
And, Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Yes, sir, please.
I believe staff in the process would benefit from a motion, if the board so inclined, at the conclusion of public input.
So my motion would be to allow the opportunity to submit 2 elements of funding for CBDGR funds for infrastructure for the Captiva collection system to get hooked up to the Sanibel sewer system, as well as the new piping that's necessary to achieve that.
Okay. I'll second. Now, public comment.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now let's open that up to public comment. Would anyone like to make comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, I will close public comment. We have a motion from Commissioner Rain, a second from Commissioner Greenwell. Any objections or any further discussion? No objections? It was 4-0.
Thank you. I am done.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Sorry.
Okay, that concludes Commissioner items. We will now move to committee appointments. Commissioner Hammond, do you have any committee appointments?
I do, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. I actually have my appointment to the, it's a new appointment to the CDBG DR, Affordable Housing Development Evaluation Committee. I'd like to appoint William Barnes from North Fort Myers in the district. And then I have 2 reappointments, Gregory Desario and Jacob Tamisonian. Gregory Desario is to the Roadway Landscape Committee, and Jacob is to the Eagle Technical Advisory Committee. Okay, that's my motion.
We have a second from Commissioner Sandelli. Any further discussion? Any objections? Moves 4-0. Commissioner Sandelli, do you have any?
Mr. Chairman, yes, I have 2. Richard Wascom for the Northeast Hurricane Bay MSTU, and a new appointment. This goes for Eileen Webster for CDBGR. We'll get this right one of these days. Affordable Housing for Development.
I will second that motion. Any objection? Seeing no objections, moves forward. Commissioner Moraine.
I have 2 appointments. One's a reappointment. It's Walter Burlett to the House Financing Authority, and then I have a new appointment to the Affordable Housing, Michael Schwartz.
Okay.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Rain, a second from Commissioner Sandelli. Any objections? Motion moves unanimous. I have none. That concludes committee appointments, county manager items. Moving on to county manager. Mr. Harner, do you have any items?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to provide you with a FEMA NFIP update today. As of yesterday, we have completed and turned in all our documentation. As I told you at the last board meeting, we had just over 400 properties information provided to FEMA. As of yesterday, all 414 were provided to them. We also provided the narrative of compliance activities, which we also sent to you last night. We have also provided supporting documentation as well as an executive summary. Next steps, we will continue to provide and work with FEMA. They will more than likely, through this process, they have had a few questions based on the submittals. Therefore, we understand that we will continue to have some communication and continue to provide additional documentation to FEMA through the 10th. Following that, FEMA has a 30-day period to essentially come up with a final answer after the 10th. We will still be potentially asked to provide additional documentation through that process as well. The next steps also, we will update our website as the board likes to ensure transparency with the community. The documentation that we've provided you, the narrative and the executive summary will be up on our website following today's board meeting. We will continue to provide you updates as we move forward. And again, we just thank you for your support. And I also would like to thank staff for all their hard work and dedication. I can't tell you the amount of hours and time that our staff has put into this. Our DCD folks have gone above and beyond, so I can't thank them enough. So, and thank you for your support.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Hunter. Any discussion? Okay. All right. Any other items?
Yes, I would like to ask Mr. Ben Abus to come up and talk a little bit about the burn ban.
Good morning, Commissioners. Benjamin Abus, Public Safety. There are two criteria that we monitor each year when considering the potential for a burn ban under Ordinance 1809. The first is the drought index must meet or exceed 600. And secondly, under the consideration of the manager with consultation with the Fire Chiefs Association and the Florida Forest Service consensus that a burn ban is necessary. We have been talking very closely with the Forest Service as well as the local fire departments. And we do believe a burn ban is necessary. However, yesterday's drought index was 593, which was an increase of 8 points over Sunday's number. We anticipate that either this afternoon with the 2 p.m. report or tomorrow that we will reach the 600 mark. Currently, the Florida Forest Service has 104 fires statewide, most of them in the peninsula of Florida, with more than 9,000 acres involved at the moment. There is a scarcity of resources, and so they have asked us to strongly consider a burn ban. We have also communicated with the National Weather Service. We're about 2 or 3 weeks away from seeing our sustained rainy season. So, you know, they're looking at the forecast, but they do anticipate it'll be a couple more weeks before we see consistent rain over our area. So we would ask this morning that you consider a motion that would allow the chair to execute that burn ban once the drought index reaches 600, which may be this afternoon or tomorrow.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
I'd like to comment on it, actually. It looks like, according to the weather that I'm looking at, we have a 10-day pattern of 50% chance of rain every day for the next 10 days. We also, watching the weather, being someone that has a farm, we've had quite a bit of rain, it looks like in Charlotte County yesterday, and rain south of us in Collier County, as well as rain in Lee County the day before. So it's, I'm a little befuddled that we raised 8 points in a day, that it looks like we had quite a bit of rain, over an inch of rain, and it looks like 3 big areas. Could you explain a little bit of that, please?
I'm not a meteorologist, but
Right.
I'll take a stab. So in talking with the Weather Service, we need extended, prolonged periods of rain to really bring down the drought index. We have had brief periods of rain across the community, and we've seen that over the last week or two. You know, we saw some areas in South Lee County that received some rain, where areas maybe in North Lee County didn't. And they've been, you know, showers that last 15, 20, 30 minutes. But we haven't had the prolonged soaking rain that really changes the drought index. That's what we expect in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So in past years where we've had, you know, in some cases 2 or 3 months of burn bans, I think this is just a matter of weeks, and then we'll reevaluate that.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
So I would like to also add that if we do authorize that today, I think we should consider bringing it back 2 weeks from now, because it does disrupt a lot of things that are going on in our community when we put that ban on, and I notice sometimes it takes a while to get back off, and I think we're about to get a lot of rain. So I would like to, if you would consider making a motion that we bring this back, we allow that, but consider it back in 2 weeks if that would be possible.
Yeah, I'll amend my motion so that it expires. Well, actually, Mr. County Attorney, I think it only can last for 7 days, correct?
Okay, yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Might I respectfully suggest perhaps the board delegate the authority to the chairman that the burn ban would go into effect only upon the index exceeding the 600 number, and that the chairman also have the authority to repeal it should the index drop below 600 upon the recommendation of county staff.
And that would just be for this particular situation?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
This
So-
way, in the event, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I will amend my motion as outlined by our county attorney, so that basically the chairman would be able to sign it into effect once the index exceeds 600, and then if it drops below 600 again, he could rescind that then, as outlined by our county attorney. That would be my motion.
I will gladly second that as well.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion? We need public comment.
Yes, sir.
We'll open for public comment at this time. Would anyone like to speak on this item at this time? Okay, seeing none? Yes, sir.
One more comment.
Yes, sir. Closing public comment. Commissioner Sandelli, you're recognized.
I just wanted to step back for a second. I got the document that was provided by the staff last night on the FEMA and CRS work. I've got halfway through it, and I just want to express my thank you for everybody that took part in that. I mean, it is incredible body of work. I was with Senator Scott last week. I think he's helping us with this. Take the time to read this and put it in front of anybody that can help us, because I hope I can understand it all. But thank you very much for the work that's gone into it. It's a great document, starting from day one.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Sandelli. All right, we'll bring back that motion. We have a motion from Commissioner Hammond, a second from Commissioner Wayne. Any objections on that motion? All right, seeing none, it passes unanimous 4-0. That concludes county manager items. At this time, Mr. County Attorney, Mr. Welch, do we have any county attorney items?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay, we have no county attorney items, so that concludes that. At this time, we will move on to public presentation of matters by citizens. I do have cards, and now we can call the folks up. Dennis Vickers, sorry for the delay, sir. Please come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My say-so about climate change is all about going down to Antarctica, coldest place in the world, and breaking off some icebergs and putting them out to the equator. And therefore, when you do that, it's like a spinning top. Your world is like a spinning top. The faster it goes, the most perfect gyro shape it goes in. The slower it goes off balance like the Earth is doing right now. It's going off balance, and therefore when you do that, we know that it's like an ice cream maker. You get 2 ice cream makers. The faster it spins, the colder it gets. We all know that climate change is about cold and hot. The colder it gets, the most perfect weather we have. The hotter it gets, it's getting hotter and hotter every day. Everybody knows that. But I mean, still, the say-so that I got comes from your vice president, ex-vice president, may I say. And, I got a speaking permit, please. But what I got from my people, I call our people, is that when you get down to it, you know, it's like an ice cream maker. The faster it spins, the colder it gets. And, oh, sorry.
You got one more minute. Go ahead.
But I mean, still, climate change is my field, my expertise, and you know, I'm trying like heck to get to my people about what to do. And you know, I try and I try and I try, but you know, it's still cold and hot. You got 112, man, and 122 in Mexico. It's our war, not necessarily. No, it's his war. Sorry, but I mean, still, let's adapt my plan. I got a feasible plan for everything. Very tired. Thinking my time's up. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, up next will be Debbie McDonald. Good morning.
My name is Debbie McDonald, and I'm a member of Voices for the Lee County Animals. I want to talk to you about some of the recent errors that have taken place at the Lee County Domestic Animal Services. First, I want to remind you about the 7 4-week-old kittens that were unnecessarily killed, even though the shelter staff were aware there were a rescue on the way to pick them up. This has not been resolved other than for the shelter to pass it off as miscommunication. Just this week, there was a lost female dog. The owners who were here from out of the country went to Lee County looking for their lost dog. They were told their dog was not there. In reality, their dog was there, but was listed as a male. The owners left and posted on Facebook again that their dog was lost. Their dog had actually been adopted out of Lee County. The new owners saw the post and contacted the rightful owners, returning their dog to them. The mix-up came on the part of the vet at the Lee County, who actually was in charge of spaying the female dog. The vet had listed the female dog as a male, noting on the paperwork they had done a throctal castration, when in reality it was a 2-week pregnant female dog. The puppies were actually aborted, yet the same dog was adopted out as a male. How does this get explained? Another incident in April, my neighbor was preparing to adopt a dog. It had to be spayed prior to adoption. The vet noticed an abnormal gait. Well, when they went in to spay, they actually found the dog had a completely shattered pelvis. They immediately put the dog out of its misery. Again, another mistake. Is that my time up?
No, when it turned red, you have a minute.
She was euthanized and put out of her pain. However, she'd been sitting there for 5 days without anyone attending to her. I could add more, but only have 3 minutes. Please hear us and work with us to get Lee County on the track to be a responsible caring facility, one the county residents can be proud of. We want to know that we are not going away, we are not giving up. I promise to be here every meeting until the killing for scared, frightened dogs and cats stop. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Up next is Linda Shelmar. After her will be Lori Hartner.
Hi, my name is Linda Shelmer. My story today begins on May 24th is where this began. A wonderful family came to this country to enjoy all the greatness that Florida promises. Such a close family, they brought their small family pet. Unfortunately, the dog got loose and ultimately ended up at LCDS, our Lee County Domestic Animal Services. From the start, the staff determined that this little dog was a male. It was a female. She was allegedly examined by veterinarians upon admission there and was determined to be a male. The dog was placed on a 3-day stray hold, but the story doesn't end here. A search of the lost and found turns up nothing, as this dog is a female, and it was turning up she actually was a female, and they were searching for this and they had the dog listed as a male. So the owners could not find this dog. The desperate family decided to put a post on Facebook. They were told by somebody on the post, go down there, do not believe them, look yourself. The family went down, the dog was not there. A Saturday morning, I saw the post, and I recognized the dog from a post that a wonderful group called the Urgent Dog Page posted of this dog. This is a site that keeps LCDS accountable to a lot of the things that happen over there. I confirmed with the intake and outcome that the dog was still there as of Thursday. On Saturday, I went with the family to the lost and found. I was quite insistent that they check to confirm that that dog was or wasn't there. With a smiled little face from the girl, she says, it's not here. The dog was adopted yesterday. Upon finding this out, I demanded that they call and confirm the sex of this animal. It was clearly this family's dog, clearly. They refused to do so, and I would need to get it from public record, is what I was told. That would take days. Eventually, what happened was, from the post, the adopters saw this post on Saturday morning as well. They contacted us. They believed, indeed, they had this family's dog. The dog had had surgery completed on her. It was documented in all the records that a male neuter was confirmed. So I ask you, how does this happen? How does 7 days go by, all these staff, multiple staff have contact with this little animal, and not one person noticed this was not a female, or not a male? A vet actually documented exams continuing this dog was a male. And no one cared enough to correct the documentation. There were many opportunities that this could have been done. Surgery should not have happened. It should have been realized then by the vet that they had a female. So, long story short, we need to do something about this facility. And from the words of the great Bill Belichick,
Thank you, ma'am.
Commissioners, do your job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Up now is Lori Hepner.
Hello, thank you very much, and good morning. I would like to start out with the fact that we have been to the LCDS and spoken with most of the higher-ups. We have been to the county managers and spoke with them, and certainly aren't seeing any help that we thought we would. We have been here to these commissioners' meetings several times and poured our hearts out to you, and all we're asking for is that you please work with us for the better of the shelter and a better quality of life for these animals who have no voices. Let's see, I'm sorry, I have MS, and so I do shake. Okay, okay, we need your help in getting to the root cause of why we have overcrowded shelters and rescues and fosters, which is clearly not happening. And you know, I'm sorry, but this is just wrong on so many levels. And we need to hold people accountable. We need to hold the shelter accountable. And I just, I have no more words. I just hope that changes are made. Thank you very much. You have a good day.
Thank you. Looks like Jane, is that right? If I pronounce it wrong, please correct me when you get up here.
Jeannie Jane. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. It's not just about dogs. Our feline friends are not getting the attention they deserve. No stray hold for adoptable cats without identification is not acceptable. There is no reason cats should not get the same treatment as dogs and receive the same amount of time for stray holds. According to the volunteer coordinator, the majority of shelter volunteers are snowbirds. Now that most of the snowbirds have gone back north, there's a critical shortage of volunteers. More events to solicit volunteers, such as the adoption fair held last Saturday, could bring in more help so the dogs will be able to get out of their kennels more often for a walk and a potty break. Also, Lee County Shelter adoption hours are inconvenient for the working public and really should be reevaluated. Perhaps you haven't noticed the excessive number of mixed German Shepherds, Huskies, Chihuahuas, etc. that are flowing into the shelter every day. Ordinance number 14-22 was adopted December 2nd, 2014. In regards to the sterilization of dogs and cats, two requirements adopted in the previous ordinance number 1404 were omitted. Sterilization requirement number 1. Domestic dogs and cats over the age of 6 months must be sterilized by a licensed veterinarian. A certificate of sterilization must be submitted to Animal Services within 30 days of the date of sterilization. Sterilization requirement number 4. An owner possessing an unsterilized, non-registered national breed animal will be provided 30 days to comply with this section of the ordinance or produce proof of certificate of sterilization, registration with the National Dog or Cat Club, or proof of medical exemption from a licensed veterinarian in the state of Florida. The failure to comply may result in impoundment of the animal. The impounded animal may be released to the owner after sterilization, and if all applicable fees have been paid, etc. Exemptions included animals used by law enforcement, animal registered by a national recognized cat or dog club, etc. As has been said before, fostering and adoption alone are not going to make a dent in the overpopulation of dogs and cats in this county. These two requirements, included in ordinance number 1404, yet excluded from present ordinance number 14-22, must be reinstated in order to stop the overbreeding of animals by residents and backyard breeders. It's been nearly 10 years. It's time for ordinance number 14-22 to be revised. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, up next will be Kara Tyler Julian. Morning.
Good morning. My name is Kara Tyler Julian, and I am here representing the East Lee Wildlife Stewardship Group, as well as hundreds of concerned citizens in eastern Lee County. There is currently a crisis unfolding in Lee County, which only you guys have the power to stop. Every day we have dozens, if not hundreds, of gopher tortoise burrows being destroyed, oftentimes with the tortoise inside being entombed or crushed to death. Other times that the tortoise is lucky enough to be out foraging, it comes back to find its home gone and is confused, may wander around and end up being hit by a car and killed anyway. Now, we all know that FWC does require that tortoises are removed before clearing activity occurs. They do require that permit that the tortoise is relocated. However, there is an enforcement gap here. So there's nothing in Lee County requiring that people have a permit to clear these single-family lots or requiring proof that there are no protected species such as the gopher tortoise present. Because that is not required, people are getting away with this. They know that there's no one watching out. They know that FWC isn't going to do anything. So they are knowingly clearing these lots with the tortoises present. And people are seeing this happen in Lee County. They're seeing it in Lehigh, in Alva, and other places. They're coming to our group and begging us for their help. We are overwhelmed with the number of people asking us to come out and mark burrows in their neighborhood, put up signage warning developers of what could happen if they clear without a permit. But we just can't keep up with trying to close this enforcement gap. So what we would really love to see from the commissioners is something done in terms of an ordinance to require a permit for clearing on single-family lots or any size lots, and that would require that there's proof that there are no protected species on site before clearing can occur. Another possible solution which we'd like to see is for the fantastic 2020 program that we all love. We'd love to see them purchase more lots in the high dry areas that are gopher tortoise habitat. So they're great at preserving our wetlands. We have so many wetlands preserved by the 2020 program, and we love to see that. But we would like to see them purchase some of these parcels we found in Lehigh that have up to 15 active gopher tortoise burrows on 1 quarter or half-acre lot, rather than seeing these tortoises destroyed. So I hope you will consider what you can do to help protect these gopher tortoises and save them from being buried alive. Thank you.
All right, that concludes the cards. Does anyone else wish to speak in public comment at this time?
I want to follow up.
Marcia.
Thank you. So Marcia Ellis, I'm just going to also jump on board with Eastleigh Wildlife Stewardship Group and say that the opportunity to have coexistence with wildlife isn't always available. You know, we know panthers, the female needs about 25 square miles, right? That's not necessarily something that people can get the joy from on a personal basis. It's not available. But the scale of living in coexistence with the gopher tortoises, with the burrowing owls, like has happened out in Cape Coral, is entirely attainable. It's something that we can achieve. And quite honestly, Lehigh Acres needs this. Lehigh Acres needs to have an investment in maintaining the wildlife, the conservation, and the environment for the benefit of the community. When you take a look at the aerials of Lehigh Acres, I mean, we know that there are a lot of entitled pre-divided parcels out there, but the density is not what it could be. And when you think about if Lehigh Acres is in a build-out situation, right, if it truly is considered a central urban type of environment for the future, what kind of impacts that's going to have to the existing gopher tortoise population that's living there if we don't intervene. And if we take a look at the fact that the infrastructure is not there for the betterment of the community, right? We're really looking at a nightmare situation. We need the Board of County Commissioners to come into Lehigh Acres and acknowledge the strengths. The high and dry environment is ideal for gopher tortoises. The community benefits from that, and to really make it the kind of community with the kind of investments that other parts of the county have enjoyed, so that the community will benefit in the future. So I think that the gopher tortoises represent the opportunity that is available for what the future of Lehigh Acres can become. And when we are protecting those gopher tortoises, we're also protecting the future of the community, including the bulk of the community's children. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Anyone else wish to speak in public comment at this time? Okay, seeing none, I will close public comment. Mr. Harner, would you like to give us an update on the workshop?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This afternoon, we have the Hurricane Ian Recovery Funding workshop at 1:30 at Admin East. This is a joint meeting. We've included our legislative delegation to hopefully we'll be attending the meeting as well.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone wish to speak on this at this time, public comment? Seeing none, I will close public comment. If there is no further business in front of us, I will close and we are adjourned.